Viridian, the Green Guide. Written by Clouds. Read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 15. The Hospital. Izuku let Mom lead him into the waiting room, and he sat down while she went to the desk to fill out the paperwork. When she was done, she came and sat beside him, but there wasn't anything she could say to make the situation better, so they just sat silently until Izuku's name was called. A nurse led them into an examination room and took Izuku's vitals. She took in Izuku's bruises, then looked at Inko suspiciously. What happened? Nothing, Izuku said quickly. I just felt there was a fight at school. Inko interrupted. He's been hiding the bullying from me, so it makes sense he'd hide it from you as well. But you don't have to do that anymore, Izuku. Izuku stared at the ground again, and the nurse nodded before she left to go get the doctor. Izuku, whatever she was going to say was cut off by the doctor opening the door. Izuku Midoriya? Izuku nodded, and the doctor sat down beside the examination table he was sitting on. Can you tell me what's going on? I'm fine, Izuku said. I can handle it. Mom's just worried. Izuku? Inko was starting to get exasperated. Why wouldn't Izuku let them help him? That's okay. The doctor smiled. I'm sure you're a strong young man, but why don't you show me what your mom's worried about, to ease her nerves at the very least? Izuku frowned for a moment before shrugging off his uniform jacket, then his shirt, struggling as he tried to undo the buttons one-handed. Inko almost helped him, but one look was enough to tell her that Izuku needed to do that much on his own. She struggled not to gasp in horror when she saw the collection of bruises that had been hiding beneath his clothes. Some were already in the healing stages, which meant that this was far from the only beating Izuku had received. The doctor, though, just took the injuries in stride and gently started prodding at his arm. Does this hurt? Izuku winced but shook his head. The doctor sighed. I'd feel more comfortable getting some x-rays, okay? Mrs. Midoriya, you stay here, and I'll walk Izuku over to radiology, okay? Izuku thought everyone was overreacting. Sure, his arm hurt, but it wasn't broken. Probably. Honestly, Izuku hadn't thought through what would happen if it was and they hadn't gone to the hospital, but his arm didn't hurt enough to be broken. After the x-rays were taken, he was expecting the doctor to lead him back to the room where his mom was waiting, but the doctor led him to a different one instead. The doctor closed the door and turned to face Izuku. Midoriya, I just want to let you know that you're safe here, and we will do everything in our power to help you, okay? Izuku nodded. He wasn't quite sure why the doctor was telling him this. Wasn't that what doctors were there for? Good, the doctor said. Now, is everything okay at home? Izuku looked at the doctor in confusion. Yes? Why wouldn't it be? Well, sometimes when kids come in with injuries like yours, Izuku's eyes widened. You think Mom did this to me? No! He tried to instinctively wave his arms in front of him, but winced at the pain the action caused. No, Mom would never hurt me. Are you sure? The doctor asked softly. You don't have to protect her. No, Izuku started crying again. I love my mom. I didn't tell her about the bullying because I didn't want her to worry, and there's nothing she could have done anyways, and I didn't want anyone to get in trouble, but then it got worse, and I still didn't tell her, and then today happened, and then the principal called, and I didn't want to come here, and now she's going to get in trouble, and it's all my fault. And breathe, Midoriya. The doctor sounded suddenly panicked. Your mom isn't going to get in trouble. We just needed to make sure there wasn't any abuse happening, and for that, we needed to ask without her in the room. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry. Izuku nodded shakily. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry? The doctor smiled. It's not your fault. I'm glad your mom's taking care of you. Just let her know in the future Make her job a little easier, okay? Okay. He felt a little bad for lying to the doctor, but things would be so much better if Mom just thought this was an isolated incident. She wouldn't have to worry so much. The doctor walked him back to the room where Mom was waiting and opened the file the radiologist gave him. All right, it looks like you have a break in your left arm, but your ribs are fine, so that's the good news. I just need to set the bone and put a cast on it, and you'll be good to go. What color do you want? Izuku shrugged. A few months ago, he probably would have gone with All Might colors, but now, green's fine, he decided finally. It didn't need to match his vigilante gear, but green was his vigilante color, so it made him feel useful. Not like a Deku who got his arm broken at school and got his mom accused of child abuse. He was so stupid. The cast took longer to put on than Izuku had thought it would. It had to dry in between the various layers, but by the end, he had a semi-comfortable cast that encased his arm from the elbow down. Now, if only he actually had friends to sign it. All right, Midoriya's, you're good to go. I'll send in the nurse who can go over how to care for the cast. Thank you so much, Mom said. The doctor smiled. My pleasure. Once they were alone, the same awkward silence fell that had dominated the whole afternoon. Inko looked over at Izuku and wondered how to bring up what she'd started thinking about while Izuku had been getting his x-rays. I don't think that school is working, she said finally. Izuku looked at her. What? The school, she said. I don't think it's a good fit. If they knew what those other kids were doing to you and blamed you instead of doing anything to stop it, then, she sighed, but I know how close you've always been with Katsuki. I don't want to separate you from him. Izuku bit his lip, and Inko could see his brain working overtime as he debated what to say. I don't think Kachan would miss me. Inko felt her heart break all over again. Had Katsuki. She'd hoped that he had protected Izuku because he wanted to be a hero, but with how broken Izuku sounded and how convinced he seemed that Katsuki wouldn't miss him, then, oh, her poor baby. We could look into transferring you to a different school, she said. To her surprise, Izuku shook his head. There wouldn't be any point. I'm the problem, and that's going to be the same wherever I go. Going to a new school would just mean I'd be quirkless and the new kid. Inko frowned. Unfortunately, she saw Izuku's logic. The bullying had started because he was diagnosed quirkless, and Izuku was right. That wasn't going to change. She'd like to believe that a new school would be better and kinder, but kids were cruel. There was a good chance his new classmates would be just as bad or even worse than the ones he had now. She couldn't do that to him. But she also couldn't, in good conscience, send him back to Aldera. Not after how they'd had the audacity to blame him for being bullied. But what other options were there? What if we could find something online? She suggested. You can't be bullied by other students if there are none. Izuku looked skeptical. Does something like that even exist? Inko shrugged. I don't know, but if it does, would you at least look into it? See if it's something you'd be interested in? Izuku thought for a long moment, and Inko was starting to get worried she'd somehow said the wrong thing when Izuku smiled. Okay, Mom. I promise I'll look into it when we get home. Tomorrow, Inko said. When we get home, we're not going to worry about anything except eating dinner and watching TV. Deal? Izuku laughed. Deal. There was a knock on the door, and the nurse walked in. Hello, Midoriyas. I'm here to give you some instructions, then you'll be good to go. That cast needs to stay on for about 6 weeks to give your arm adequate time to heal. Keep it dry and don't participate in any sports or vigorous activities that could irritate your arm until you get the cast off. Make sure to call us if you think anything is wrong, and that's about it. You're free to go. Mom thanked the nurse and they left. Izuku felt his stomach twist as he mentally reviewed the instructions. He wasn't allowed to do any physical activity that could jostle his arm for the next month and a half. If he did, he could re-injure his arm, which would just cause more trouble for everyone and put Mom through all this worry all over again. And he couldn't do that to her. So what was he supposed to do about his vigilantism? End of chapter.